Well, I've waited a long time before clicking the record button on this one. Another emo video. I really don't want to do this video. Captain Awesome on his other account, did a video about anxiety, and then, Dill, had to add one. So these two people that I really don't like currently, for their philosophies, on a subject that, this one I'm really a professional on, but there's no, I don't mean that you really don't learn anything, I guess, through experience on some things. I was thinking about, I'm sure this talking about it isn't going to do me any good, and I'm figuring I don't have any really good advice, and so there's probably not much I can say, but it's a truth, it's a truth of my life. It's a big, giant, fucking piece of my life. I don't count it really as anything. It's like an appendage that you don't need. It's like having some wound or something that you just live with, and it doesn't do you any good. It just doesn't add anything, at least not for me anyway. It hasn't, it doesn't contribute even to your perspective. I mean, it just serves you no purpose. So anyway, anxiety and panic attacks, I mean, I was probably most people experience them, and a few occasional ones, I guess, it's probably pretty normal. It is strange how for every person, how your brain attacks you is a little different. It's almost like nightmares or something. I mean, it's everybody has their vulnerabilities. Snakes, spiders, whatever the boogeyman is, and panic disorders are almost just an acceleration of that mechanism. I don't know exactly what that is in the brain that challenges you, but there's part of your brain that wants to challenge you, and I think when that goes a little bit wrong, you end up with this panic attack or anxiety problem, and it's just somehow it's a feedback loop where it's just gotten out of control. It's feeding on itself, and it goes too far because it's not testing you or challenging you anymore. It's basically trying to destroy you. I mean, it's taking away every part of you that has any will to do anything. I mean, for me, that it wasn't even so much fear as it was just this dead, horrible feeling. I mean, the worst nausea just kind of amplified, and you're just crippled by just such an empty, hard unpleasantness that just it just consumes you. And I can relate to the don't touch, don't talk, don't do anything to me when I'm in that state kind of thing. But yeah, that's certainly how mine manifested themselves. But it was more of just, it's like no input could be positive. I mean, a thought, anything you put into the system, it was like having a bunch of broken glass, and if you shook it or did anything, the pieces would all jab into each other, and so there was like no input you could have that's going to be constructive, because any movement is bad movement. It's like you have to shut down everything to get out of it, and it's like anything you throw in there is just aggravates this grinding, this meshing, this destruction that's taking place. And it's funny how like even the smallest little sounds, little things can just creep you out. I don't know the right word for it, but it's just, it wouldn't, when you're in that state, you're just so vulnerable to anything. And So anyway, for me, it started like the day I was born. I mean, you know, I can think of my first conscious experiences were basically pretty negative, in terms of just this, you know, perception of what the fuck is this place? Where am I? None of this makes any sense. This is, you know, feeling very disconnected from the world I was living in. And so I'd say, I guess the part of the advantage or disadvantage for me is that, yeah, it's something I had to live with when I was a kid, you know, and so I sort of, you know, I never really feared I was going to die, because I guess you know, you have enough of these attacks, you know, yeah, well, I mean, as a kid, you really don't even understand the concept of death. And so I guess I had enough of them before I even knew what death was, that I knew I wasn't going to die, because I'd been here before. I mean, I visited hell, and so I knew you went and then you came back, and that's how it worked. And so you learn to live with it, and where it gets tricky, though, I guess the only I have absolutely nothing constructive, nothing, no advice. I don't, you know, medications, this, that. I mean, I've gone these roads and nothing. Well, whatever. I mean, but the only thing that, the only line I can understand is that there's this line where if you have enough of these attacks, what you really got to worry about is that they'll recondition you. They'll start affecting you. Especially if you have enough of them in environments where you have no control, you know, social environments, the rest of it. That's where mine turned into this whole agoraphobic, don't go out, you know, really limit your life kind of thing. Is that it starts to, your brain ends up associating the attack as a real experience. I mean, so you could be at the drugstore and you have an anxiety attack, a panic attack, and your brain will associate the drugstore with the panic attack. And even though the two things weren't connected in any way, your brain's going to connect them. And over time, that'll start wearing on your psychology. That conditioning will start provoking attacks, and then you'll start avoiding things, because, you know, why not? Yeah, I mean, if I'm more likely to have anxiety in that circumstance, okay, yeah, get out of that circumstance. And that didn't start happening to me until, you know, I was maybe 14 or 15, you know, where I just started cutting things out, you know, just saying, okay, you know, I had enough bad experiences in that environment. I'm not going there again. You know, I had a really bad experience in that one environment, and so yeah, I'm not going there again. And it just starts, you know, for the next 7 or 8 years, I just started, you know, you just keep cutting pieces of your life off, you know, and just cut this piece and this piece and this piece, just keep cutting and cutting until you know, I got a little tiny piece left, and that's your island, that's your little, you know, you can't cut anything more off, so you stop cutting because there's nothing else left to cut. And that's basically where I've been for 40 years or whatever it is, or about 25 years of just living on a, you know, the little piece that I was able, you know, that I just couldn't cut any more off. I mean, I'd probably like to cut more off, but there's no more to cut off. There's a point where there's just nothing left to cut away. And so, anyway, I guess my point is it can ruin your life if you're not careful. But, you know, like I said, a few panic attacks here and there, that's, like I said, some of that I think is normal. I mean, it's just, you know, the brain just sometimes farts, and that's, you know, you get this bullshit. But if they start getting regular, you've probably got to try to do something to stop it, you know, control it. Take a vacation, do whatever you got to do, but find some way to interrupt whatever the mechanism is that's causing it, because it's dangerous. I mean, it can kill you, you know. and if it doesn't kill you, it'll give you enough of a, it'll destroy enough of your life that it's definitely something you want to avoid. It starts to own you. Even if you stop it, you got so much damage to fix from what it did to you that it's it's almost two separate projects. The first project is stopping the syndrome, and the second project is undoing what it did.
I'm a bad case example for much, just because it doesn't even matter if I got rid of it now, because it's just done. It's already it's fucked up so much inside my head that there's no recovery.